Now, I'd like to say one thing. Like, I love George Clooney, but his thinking to use Hattie McDaniel winning the Academy Award as an example how progressive Hollywood is crazy. First of all, Hattie McDaniel played a mammy. The film was Gone with the Wind. Mm-hmm. Gone with the Wind is basically saying the Confederates should have won and there should still be slaves in this country. Also, it took Hattie McDaniel won in 1939. It took to 2003 for another black woman to win. So how can you use that? How can you use Hattie McDaniel winning first? Also, when she won the Oscar, she had to sit in the back of the room too. And you're gonna use that example of how liberal Hollywood is? I love George, but that was the wrong analogy to use as an example how progressive Hollywood is.
Sean in Finsbury Park. Simon, great to hear Spike is a football fan. Will he be following the USA at this summer's World Cup?
No.
Okay.
Brazil.
Why would you want to follow Brazil?
Because.
Just because they're going to win it?
Because they play the game the way I love it. You know, even though I'm American, I'm going for Brazil. I know that might sound unpatriotic to some people in the United States of America, but I'm pulling for Brazil. And I will wear my green and yellow in Germany this summer.
With a side order of USA if needed.
Are you allowed, under the newly re-signed Patriot Act, are you allowed to...
I don't think so.
No, you're not allowed back in the States.
I might get
now.
shot by a shotgun or Dick Cheney, huh?
Rodney in Manchester. As a massive fan of Spike Lee's films, can I start by saying Do the Right Thing is a classic and that no other film could have done the song Fight the Power of Justice like the aforementioned film did. Given Mr. Lee's movies tend to examine varied and complex issues, would Mr. Lee be kind enough to share his thoughts on the US government's response to the victims of Katrina? As I read, he was to produce a documentary on the aftermath of Katrina. That is your next movie.
Yes, thank you for that question. I am in the process of doing a feature-length documentary on Katrina for HBO, and the title is called When the Levees Broke. And it's going to be 4 hours, and we have stuff that's just amazing in it, and
Has the story not been told yet?
Not the way we're going to tell it. Not the in-depth way we're going to do it. We've been down to New Orleans 3 times. We just came back last week from Mardi Gras week, which was a 6-month mark when Katrina hit, and it is still the same. This is a landmark in American history. Never before has the United States government turned its back on its own citizens on U.S. soil. The United States of America is so quick to go to the 4 corners of the earth to help other people, other nations with national disasters or whatnot under the guise of bringing democracy. But when this thing occurred, this administration was very, 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 very slow in responding, and things are still in disarray.
Why do you think they were so slow?
Because Louisiana, for the most part, is poor white and black people. The majority of them did not vote Republican. And even though 40% of the nation's gas and oil goes to that region, they just didn't care. And I think that was demonstrated by our president when he had to break short his vacation. He's also taken more vacations than any other president in history of the United States of America, too. He didn't even, the first time, he didn't even stop in New Orleans. He just told the pilot to lower the plane so he could fly over it. I think it was demonstrated by when people were drowning or people on top of their roofs, waving white towels and stuff to be picked up by helicopters. Miss Condoleezza Rice was going up and down Madison Avenue buying Ferragamo shoes. Then that night she went to see Spamalot on Broadway while people were dying in the Gulf region. So I think, and then you look at Chertoff and Brown. You say FEMA in New Orleans, you could get punched. That is a dirty word.
Just explain what their role should have been. And who they are?
I think who?
FEMA. Just explain to a British audience. I mean, we're familiar with the story, but not with the organisation of FEMA.
Well, FEMA is supposed to be the organization that helps United States American citizens, in case of national disasters or terrorist attacks, and it's just bureaucracy. I mean, and people still have not gotten their trailers, and it's crazy.
And the head of FEMA had to resign, didn't it?
Yes.
Do you think that the actions of the US government were sort of benign neglect, if you want, or are you suggesting that it was malicious?
I think it was malicious. Another thing is that when you have a national disaster, usually each state has a national guard that will help, bring order. But Louisiana, which is one of the largest national guards of any state, they're all in Iraq. They weren't there.
But you compared it to, you said that it put you in mind of Chinatown, which of course is the great template of,
right.
Corrupt government and water, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what exactly did you mean by that?
Well, in doing the research and speaking to many of the black citizens of New Orleans, many of them told me that they will swear on a stack of Bibles that they heard the explosion, and they think that those levees were blown up. Now, as a documentary filmmaker, I think it's my duty to let these people voice their opinions. Also, there's a history of this. In 1927, levees were blown up to save one particular neighborhood, and one other neighborhood had to be sacrificed. In 65, Hurricane Betsy, the same thing happened. So I think that we should not be quick to dismiss people who say this, they're just crazy black people. But this stuff is based upon, history. There was a thing called the Tuskegee experiment. I don't know if you know about this. But during the 1920s, the United States government conducted experiments on black men to see what would happen to them if syphilis was left untreated. This is documented. So all these things that are in the air, and people they don't put it past the government to do some crazy stuff.
So it's so this suggestion from the people that you were speaking to is that some of the levees were blown up
They think that.
To save some areas at the expense of others.
Yes.
Because we did a conversation about conspiracy theories a couple of weeks ago on the program. And
was Oliver Stone on it?
No, he wasn't. But we had someone saying quite seriously that the World Trade Center.
I've heard that too.
Those two buildings, the way that they fell, they must have been blown up from within.
My wife believes to this day that the United States government was behind, and she's not the only one.
But that's crazy, isn't it? There's no evidence to suggest that. I mean, if you make a documentary film, you have to have some evidence to be suggesting these things, other than just someone saying, do you know what? I heard an explosion.
But as a documentary filmmaker, I still think that people should have the right to express. Of course, they didn't get a recording of that explosion, but I still think as a documentary filmmaker, I also interviewed engineers who said the opposite. That is crazy. That it was the faulty building of the levees that had to do. So you show both sides.
So you're just reflecting the discussion which is actually happening.
Yes.
But you're going to come to some conclusions yourself as the
No, we're going
director.
to let the audience make up their mind like we always do. You do the right thing, and to do the right thing is left up to the audience to figure out what is do the right.
Sure,
what is the right thing to do?
Sure, but Spike Lee comes to a conclusion as Spike Lee, doesn't he?
Yeah, but that doesn't have to be at the end of my films, though. I really tried, especially going this next 20-year period. I don't want to dictate to the audience what they should think or feel. I respect their intelligence too much to do that.
Thank you, Spike Lee.
Thank you very much for having me.